And we are live for another episode of Marketing Without Rules. And I'm joined today by Brad Akers. Really excited to have you here, Brad.
I'm happy to be here.
We've got Chip in the background too, creating a little background. I can hardly hear him, but we got the good old doggo there.
He's been banished to this room.
You got a crazy evening. Well, I appreciate you jumping on with me tonight. Looking forward to chatting. For those that don't know Brad, I had him on my previous podcast about a year ago. I think it was 10 months ago. I was looking at it there earlier. And Brad's got a really interesting story. I probably won't go into the whole thing. I'll leave that for the description of the podcast so we can really get into the meat and potatoes, but I will get you to intro yourself here in a second. But Brad has gone from, working in roofing to running an agency, doing a lot of the same stuff that I do now, websites, SEO, ads, all of that sort of stuff, to now running more of a consulting and training company, which is a really cool angle and a really good fit, I think, for what you bring to the table. So Brad, if you could just give people a quick rundown of who you are and where you've been, anything that I missed, and then we'll dive right into the meat and potatoes here.
Sure. First and foremost, I'm a husband and I'm a dad. So that's the best. Those are my favorite qualities about myself. My background is started in roofing distribution, left that after 3 years, was selling material directly to roofing contractors, selling multiple seven figures a year myself, and then joined on with one of my clients as a partner in their roofing company and started a marketing agency at the same time, grew that, and a few other check bookmarks in that story, but ended up selling the marketing agency and a few variations of it, and started this consulting business to solve some problems that I saw really, really clearly based off of seeing the roofing industry specifically from so many angles, but also just construction and contracting businesses as a whole, and even just businesses as a whole. There's a deeper rooted why behind everything we teach our clients that really fits almost any business.
It's a big deal. I'm excited to get into it. Thank you for that. And thanks for doing the stuff that you do. I mean, it's much needed, and there's hardly anybody doing it from what I see. So let's dive in. What is it that, that you mainly tell if someone's coming to you and saying, Brad, I just need help. What is it that you really dive into them on?
So essentially what I want to help our clients with, or anyone who comes to me, is adopt a client acquisition mindset backed by really solid processes and marketing collateral and all the things that you need that will allow you to turn each individual step within your sales and production process into an opportunity to get more projects, get more leads, get more appointments. So it's very referral based, very warm lead, kind of reaching out to the warm lead based, but it really allows you to focus on what I think are the right things, which is good communication, good customer service. And as long as you do those things and do some of the things within the processes that we'll probably get into a little bit, you're able to really, really increase the amount of opportunities in your pipeline, and they happen to close at a higher rate too. So all good things.
Amazing. I'm on the edge of my seat here. Let's get into the philosophy, and I'm excited for the part where we get into the numbers too, because you can talk about it until you're blue in the face. People are going to be like, yeah, that's great, Brad. It sounds fun. I think that your credibility comes in part from the fact of your journey. That's why I wanted to touch on that. You've come from the trenches to a marketing agency to now a training agency. But let's dive into, as if I know nothing about this, can you teach me so that others can benefit?
Yeah. So you own a junk removal company, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Well, I did. Like, if we're role playing, I can own one. I owned it in 2021, ran it for about a year, and then kids and the agency, I said I got to focus on those, and then I did pass it up. But yeah.
Well, in that case, let's role play a little bit. You own a junk removal company still, right? When you did.
Yeah.
So how do you typically focus on getting new sales for a junk removal company?
So new sales for us mainly came from lead generation online. So it was a lot through website, Google Business Profile, a very small sprinkling of Facebook and Google Ads.
Sure. Fantastic. When you got called, how often did you close them at a 75% rate, 50% rate, 25% rate? Like, just give me rough numbers. You can.
I believe it was around 60%,
Okay.
the
So
way we
pretty
were doing
high.
it. Yeah. When I was involved. Yeah.
And how much in ad spend or marketing dollars did it typically take to get you a good conversation?
We didn't track that amazingly well, which is probably something you dive into people. We didn't track it amazingly well, and I don't remember the numbers that we did do. So I don't have a good number to bring to the table for
That's
that.
okay. The reason I'm asking, because a lot of the time everyone focuses on that. How can we build a business, develop strong customer service, develop how we're going to serve them, go over all the operations, and then you separate that and then you say, now, how do I market that business?
Mhm.
And almost everything that we do is built around getting people from the outside in. And that creates a challenge in and of itself, because oftentimes that means you're going to be judged based off your price, off of someone's just gut reaction, or off of your sales skills if you're a little more aggressive and sales focused, or off of your online presence and the way you look and the way you make them feel online. When you are trying to make someone feel a certain way online, what are the feelings that you're typically trying to make them feel? Just give me a few.
Trying to make them feel, reviews are a big one, that you know what you're doing and other people like you. I think that's probably going to tie into what you're going to talk about here. And then, you've got a nice professional image online. You've got, nice branded vehicles, branded smiling people in your pictures. That sort of thing is really the image that you're trying to get across.
Yeah. So essentially, you want them to be able to envision working with you because they feel like, okay, they look professional, they look like clean, they look like they care. So I'm going to have a good experience. My experience, if I hire this person, is going to be good. And then they're also considering pricing. They're considering whether they like you, a lot of those things. So everyone's just trying to gauge, how is this customer experience going to be?
Yeah.
And what's the discrepancy between how much I have to pay, the convenience that hiring this junk removal company is going to give me, and the actual experience, right? So the point that I'm making is, everyone tries to focus on, how can I make my website? How can I convince people of all these things? The way we approach things is, what if you didn't have to convince people, you just got to demonstrate it, and not demonstrate it around, okay, we care about our attention to detail, so our website's good, or we have a really good process for people to write us reviews, which is important. And I want to continue. I want to make sure that you know that. But instead, you give people an opportunity to get involved in certain ways as to what the project is. So when you go pick up some junk at Susie's house, is there an opportunity? Is there anything that when you're there, is there any reason that someone potentially would be affected that's a neighbor?
Well, there's the old shed that might be being torn down that was an eyesore for the neighborhood. A outdoor pool. Maybe the cars can go inside now because the garage is cleaned out. Definitely some affectations that way.
Yeah. And I would also say, what kind of what kind of truck are you typically driving to the?
It's nice and branded. It's, looks reputable.
Yeah. Do you have to park it in the driveways? Do you always park it in the driveway? Sometimes do you park it in the street? Could it get in the way sometimes?
Definitely could get in the way sometimes. Yeah.
Could it be noisy every once in a while?
Throwing stuff into the trailer and whatnot definitely could be noisy.
Mm-hmm. So the point is, what we want to do is think about, who are the real stakeholders in this project? A lot of the time,
Susie's neighbor that's yelling at her because she's irritated.
Yeah. So there's other people that likely can be involved. Now, it doesn't mean that they have to be, and it also doesn't mean they have to be annoyed with your customer. But what we want to do is be proactive in how we're communicating. It's important to us to communicate with our customers, right? We have to let them know when we're going to be there. We have to let them know how long it's going to take. We have to make sure that we're parked in a place that's convenient to them so that they can get in and out. But a lot of the time it starts and stops there. And what we want to do is develop processes throughout the journey to where not only are we able to have those conversations and demonstrate and have that level of customer service with the clients, but we also want to extend that to the neighbors. And there's a lot of different ways to do that for a lot of different industries. But one of the ways that we want to do that is like, if we can understand the person on 123 Main Street and 125 Main Street, likely socioeconomically, maybe in just a bunch of different ways, probably check a lot of the same boxes, are probably similar.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that that person has some junk that they at some point want to get removed. Yeah. If you're in an area where like people kind of hoard stuff in their yards, then the neighbor, there's probably a good chance the neighbor has stuff. If you're in a nice area and someone's just cleaning out their garage, there's a good chance there's something that is inconvenient to move that someone wants to get rid of as well. So when you're there, people, one, there's curiosity. Who's that? What is it? How much is it? Those are questions that people have if they notice that your car's there.
Yeah.
There's also potentially inconvenience. This is loud. I don't like strangers in my yard. It's getting dark. Why are they still there? I want my kids to go play outside, but I don't want them to play outside while these people are like messing around and flinging trash all over, even if you're keeping it clean and contained. So how can we proactively get in front of them and try to have that dialogue with them to where they can feel the same feelings that we want a website to make someone feel, and we want that, except we're actually there. And we're not just able to show them that. We're able to have that conversation. We're able to create opportunities and build our process around not only giving the customer the great experience, but also ensuring that that's extended to the neighbors and that communication is extended to the neighbors. But we also want to be able to answer some of their questions, or at least help them put their mind at ease for different things. So for roofing, it makes a lot of sense, which is where I've historically spent a lot of time, because insurance might be covering it. So you're over there, you're checking to see if there's damage that could be covered by the insurance company. Yeah. If you find out that homeowner A has damage, is there a good chance homeowner B has damage?
Yeah.
Yes. So we want to make sure they know, hey, this is why we're here. We did find damage that will help us warrant a claim. I want to let you know we'll likely be here quite a bit over the next few weeks. There'll probably be an adjuster meeting, and we'll make sure that we're there as well. And I'll just make sure you know once we're here, just in case you have any questions. And if while I'm here, you need anything, whether one of our trucks parked in the way or something blows in your yard, or if you just want us to check out your roof and see if we can help get your roof approved, we're happy to help. And that's the type of conversation almost every industry can have. In plumbing, you could be 90% sure there's an issue with the water and it's the water pressure is caused by this. But what if you found out that the neighbors had great water pressure, but this one house that you got called to doesn't? Does that change your diagnosis? Yes. So how can you get the neighbors involved? You can get them involved in the actual diagnosis of the problem. And then if they have a similar problem, let them know that you're around and available. And I can go down the list. There's a lot of different ways, and we want to build out a much more extensive version of this. But part one is, how can we get more out of the opportunities that we already have? And when I say adopting a customer acquisition mindset, in a funny way, really adopting a experience and a positive experience and customer experience focused mindset.
Yeah, you're rolling out the red carpet for everybody. The words that come to mind is warm and fuzzies. If someone came over, because everybody, you feel kind of standoffish. And, anybody that's new in the neighborhood, you're like, what are they doing? Oh, it's a new roofing company. Are they going to be awful? And we kind of assume that's going to be the case. And then we're like, are they going to throw stuff in my yard? But if they came over and talked to you and like pre-prepped you for it, even if something bad happened, you'd already feel like you were on their team. And that's huge.
And the thing is, like, you as the homeowner may not know that 30,000 nails are going to come off of this roof when they're replacing it. And then 30,000 more are going to get put on.
Yeah.
You might not know that, but I have an opportunity to tell you that, and also tell you that if this problem that you didn't even know about happens, if you drive across a nail, call me and I'm going to get you taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an opportunity. But a lot of these things, a lot of the things that go wrong, a lot of the times a neighbor might get upset, that could be a really good place to look. Or a lot of the time you could diagnose the problem differently if you had more information around what's going on in the other neighbors, would be an alternative.
Yeah.
And those are great places to think, how can I extend my superb communication to the neighbors as well? How can I let them know about potential problems they may encounter, but also make sure they know there's a solution? Or how can I just keep them updated? And how can I make sure that I'm putting them at ease? And you mentioned roofing. If a roofer was in town, one of the things you'd be thinking about is, are these people going to knock on my door and try to sell me something?
Yeah.
That's definitely something that they might think about. And what if you didn't try to sell them something?
You came with solutions to problems they didn't know they had.
So what if instead of trying to sell them something, you didn't even mention or ask them to get on the roof? The only reason you wanted to talk to them was to let them know that you're about to fly a drone in the air, and hey, I would want to know if I was in my backyard and I heard a drone going, I'd be wondering what's going on and looking around. I just wanted you to know that's us, and maybe stay out of your backyard for a little bit if you don't want to get on camera, but otherwise feel free to wave, and we'll be virtually waving back, and just letting them know that. That's an
what if I'm gonna butt in here a little. What if the people aren't home? What if you're doing a job? Do you have written materials and assets there that you have for your clients to give out?
So typically everything is going to be paired with marketing material. So the marketing material, a lot of the time we want it to closely match your message. Or if you do have more of a general door hanger or something, make sure there's room for a note, and write a little note saying, hey, we're checking out the Jones house, or hey, the Jones called us to remove some things from their garage. Just wanted to let you know if you need anything at all. My name's Lewis. Here's my business card, staple. Just taking that extra time and building a process to where you're doing these things on repeat. And there's a much more extensive process we can go through. Like if we wanted to go through the entire sales and production process of like a few different examples, but that would probably take longer than we have. But the point is,
around too.
At the appointment, at the sale, at the end of the project, whether it's a short in and out thing or a longer, more extended project, there are opportunities to initiate those conversations with the people that are around, and leaving things for the people that aren't, so that they know you are there, they know why you are there, and they have a way to contact you if they need you. And that's really step one. And then step two that we haven't talked about yet is referrals, which we're not counting the neighbors as referrals quite yet.
No way. Okay, because that's where my mind went. Do you want to dive into the referral side?
Yes, well, I would love to. So referrals are the best lead. We all know that. It's very difficult to make an argument that referrals are not going to be the best lead. And if someone does have that opinion, they either are just sociopaths who are obsessed with selling, or they've had a couple weird experiences with referrals and have moved on. And I'm not saying referral like your friend from high school saying, hey, like my friend does marketing. Here, talk to this company. And you're like, I don't think you get it. Like, that's not quite what I mean. I mean, someone who's worked with you, referring you, someone like them to you.
Yeah.
So if I had worked with Lewis, or I've just been in a similar industry and I referred a marketing client to him, that would likely be a good lead.
Yeah.
If I was just some random person that knew Lewis and knew nothing about marketing, and I was like, oh, Lewis is the man. He can help you grow your business. Like, you won't even have to worry about anything. And then I gave him to Lewis. It might be setting Lewis up for failure potentially. But I digress. Point is, referrals are the best types of leads. We all know it. The problem and the thing that a lot of us marketers have been taught to say is, but can you really rely on word of mouth? Are you tired of relying on word of mouth? And I would argue that no, you should never get tired of relying on word of mouth. In fact, word of mouth and referrals should make up a good chunk of the business. In fact, I would say between the neighbors and referrals, no matter how much you're spending on marketing, if you're doing the right things at the job site and at the sale and with the client and have a solid referral program, you'll likely have trouble having your paid marketing ever beat this stuff.
Yeah.
But the reason that people like to use that dialogue, are you sure you can rely on referrals, is because people don't necessarily have a developed process to actually turn a client into a promoter and have that person bring you new business. It's not enough to just say, hey, if you send us someone, we'll give you $100, and then call it. And no, sending a follow-up text message a month later or an email reminding them of this also is not enough. And the reason is because people aren't sitting there thinking, how can I grow Lewis's business? How can I give back to this person that I just paid a bunch of money to? People aren't thinking like that. They may be completely satisfied with working with you and happy to, and they would be happy to talk to someone that's interested in working with you, or they'd be happy to tell someone, oh, I work with a great marketing agency, or I worked with a great junk removal company. Is the guy who runs, his name is Lewis. You absolutely should reach out to him. They'd be happy to do that, but that might not mean that they're actively doing that for you, no matter what your compensation is. So we want to try to incentivize people to do referral generating activities for you rather than relying on people to just remember you if your trade comes up.
So I think you're probably going to get into this, but the distinct difference I heard there was the referral generating activities is what we want to train people to do, not just, hey, give us referrals.
Exactly. And when can you get them to do that referral generating activity? You have a pretty narrow window of when they're going to be willing to, and it's usually going to be right after they worked with you, as long as you did a good job. And when you do it, typically, unfortunately, it's not just, hey, can you post on Facebook and let everyone know how great we are? Usually you have to actually work and develop a process to get them to take the action. And you get them to do it on the spot. So one more quick role play, if you will.
Yeah.
Though you're going to be the homeowner and I will be the person who just removed your junk. So Lewis, we have a quick questionnaire that we always ask at the end just to make sure that you had a good experience. Do you mind if I ask you these few questions?
No, sure. Go for it.
Okay. First one, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good do you feel like the communication was between us and you?
Man, you were right at like a 9.5.
Oh, really? That's amazing. Thank you. I'm going to put 9 just because we can't do a 0.5, but I want to make sure I mark that down. I appreciate the extra 0.5. Did you shop for others or did you just call us and choose us?
Yeah, we called a couple people. I think it was like 3 or 4 that my wife called.
Okay.
But you guys were the only ones that actually called back.
Awesome. And I have 3 options for you. Did you choose us because we communicated better, because of our reviews or our website or general online presence, or because of our pricing, or all of the above?
It definitely wasn't pricing. We had one other quote that was cheaper, but your reviews and then the communication is where you really came through because you actually came in when we needed you guys to.
Beautiful. Also, awesome. Awesome. And then our final question is, if a friend or family member needed to get something removed, did we provide a level of service that would make you willing to refer us?
For sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That really means a lot. Based on that, we actually have a referral program. I'd love to get you in as a referral partner. Like, would you be open to me telling you about that?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So in order to become a referral partner, we just need you to take 3 steps. One is post about us on Facebook and tag our business page. And I'm actually going to want you to do that real quick now, just so I can let the office know. And we actually have another business that kind of sounds like us. I don't want you to tag the wrong person. 2, just grab that same post, copy and paste it, and then throw it in a neighborhood Facebook group or next door. And then the third one is just let people know how we did and as a Google review for us. Is that something that you'd be willing to do?
Yeah, that sounds easy enough. I snagged a couple pictures. I can probably throw them in there too.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm going to help. I'm going to just make sure you're getting all this, make sure it's all done so I can let the office know before I leave. I'm going to send you a template that you can use and then just plug in your experience so that you don't have to think of the whole post. And then why don't we take a quick selfie picture and I'll send that to you as well and just use that as a post in the picture.
Oh, you make it too easy. I was trying to think it up, but if you guys have got something already, that would be great.
Yeah.
Sure,
Not everyone posts on Facebook all the time. We want to make it simple for you. So
Sounds
you
good.
see how we got them, we can get them to post and share it with their personal network, get them to post it in a neighborhood group that you don't want to spam, but you're happy to have your customers post about you.
Yeah.
And then we're getting them to do a Google review. So that is already lethal. But now, before I do that, before I even listed those things, what if I said, roofing, we got a lot of money to work with. So we'll say that. What if you said, I have a huge favor to ask you. In order to be a referral partner, you have to do a few things for us, but I actually have $100 bill with your name on it. If we can just get this taken care of right now, like, are you open to me telling you what it is?
Yeah, for sure.
So we're trying to get them to do it then and there. So we're trying to crush the objections, pay them to do these referral generating activities as a little intro to the referral program. And then on top of that, you say, and by the way, anyone that comes in from any of your posts, we do a really good job, just like we did with you asking where you heard about us from. We'll make sure that you're getting credit for that. And every person that ends up scheduling an appointment with us that we end up sending a proposal to, we're going to give you a $50. We're going to give you $50, and anyone who signs up, we'll give you another $200.
That's killer.
So that's like an in-depth one. That's for roofing. For junk removal, we might have less money to work with. Totally fine. Just lessen the numbers.
I think even without the money, the way that you did it, I wanted to point a few things out that I felt as I was going through that. You made it super easy. You basically raised my excitement just by me thinking about the process. Like maybe someone hasn't actually thought it through. Like, oh, this was actually a really good experience. You know, we called you. You were great. You guys communicated. There was that one little snafu which you took care of. It was awesome. So you got them like in an elevated emotional experience right there.
I'll call it stack the yeses.
There you go. Yeah, stack the yeses. And then you tie them over, and then you're asking them like a few simple things, and then they've already agreed to it. And then you like come in behind with, hey, let's shoot a quick picture for you to use, and here's a template. And then you just like took all of their objections and friction out of the way because you made it so easy for them to do. They'd already agreed to it, but now you just, followed up with a helping hand there. I love that.
And the thing is, almost everyone's going to agree to it. It's a matter of if they're going to do it. So that's why I said you had a narrow window.
I loved we have another company that's kind of like us. That was a very subtle thing. In the office, you're using two things that's like outside of you, Brad, who's the junk removal guy or the roofing guy. It's like, hey, I got to do this. Like the office is going to bug me, so we can just make sure this is done off my checklist. And I don't want you to tie the wrong company.
And if you're a sales rep, you can, and if you're a sales rep, or if you own a company and have sales reps, you can give your sales rep an extra $25, $50, $200, whatever the right like number is for your industry, if they get this. And you as the sales rep should be trained to let the homeowner know, like, hey, do the like question, survey. By the way, I got $100 with your name on it. Or if you want to leave that out, did we do a good enough job? Would you be willing to let me tell you some of the details about our referral program? Like, it'd be a huge favor to me if you sign up and do all the few things we ask. It actually gives me an extra commission. Like, it really would mean the world to me, because people want to help.
They want to help.
So we just have to tell them how. People want to refer you. You have to walk them through how to. But if you're like, give me 10 names and numbers, that is uncomfortable for everyone. And then you, as the owner of the company, these are still pretty much cold leads. Like,
and then they're like at the Thanksgiving party or the Christmas party, they're like, "Why the heck did you give me my number? I'm now getting emails and texts, and they're calling me, and I don't want a roof."
Yeah, so there's still cold leads, and that's the thing that like people like don't necessarily realize. It's like there's nothing that's not helping you. You're actually kind of ruining the chance for this to be as warm of a lead as it could, because you're just cold calling these people, and no one likes to get cold called. No. Even if you're like, hey, I know Lewis. You're like, okay, Lewis probably knows a lot of people. Why do you have my number?
I love it. Liam says, Brad dropping bombs. I agree. Appreciate you showing up, Liam. Robin jumping in, Evie, and Mansion 94. I don't recognize the connection there between the name and the handle, but appreciate everyone jumping in. Brad, now I'm sure everyone's like enjoyed this. I have. I love how you broke that down. Does this work? What are the numbers? Show us the proof.
It works very well. So, couple promises. One, these are process-based things. So this isn't reliant on an algorithm. This isn't reliant on nearly as much. And really, it kind of is human psychology based. And neighboritis is a thing, truly. So
neighboritis, I've never heard that, but I know exactly who to try
on it being a thing. But I will promise you, if you develop processes and do these things consistently and add it, instead of, you don't want to replace what you're doing with this necessarily. You may be able to if you really develop the process. But if you add it to what you're currently doing, I guarantee you will experience a lift in your sales. Now, the KPI, key performance indicator, that we optimize for with our clients, and that is pretty predictable and actually pretty conservative, we've found, is we want an average of 3 additional inspections or opportunities or appointments as a result of the entire sales and production process. So that's everything you're doing to get in front of the neighbors, and then everything you're doing to try to get the referrals. As long as you get 3 additional inspections and you can close these warm leads at 33.3%, you just doubled your sales.
Yeah, that's wild. What's the highest average that a company that's worked with you has got? Because I think the title of this that I did was turn 1 into 5.
Yeah, so that's just the minimum, right? That's one cycle, but it doesn't stop at one cycle. You still run the play on the next one and the next one and the next one. Now, you want to be a little bit different with the neighbors if you're just doing the same one for the next person. But the thing is, because we're not just doing these sales techniques and it's just communicating, the conversation may be a little different, but the touch points actually remain pretty much the same. Yeah. And the reason they remain the same is because you're not trying to sell people. You're just trying to keep them informed. You're trying to extend a good customer service.
Why would they be different, though? Like, what would be different about handling a neighbor versus the first client?
Well, I'm saying you may have already talked to
True.
125 Main Street when you just did 123 Main Street, and now you're doing 124 Main Street.
Cool.
So
Gotcha.
you don't want to act like, hey, surprise, like never met you before. So really, it's just like there's
We're here again. Your next
familiarity.
neighbor's getting it.
Yeah, like,
Let's keep
hey,
in the neighborhood.
me again. Like we'll keep it short, but we're working with them. I just wanted to let you know we're back. We'll be here for a little bit.
You know the drill. No skinny dipping. We're gonna have the drone up.
Yeah, and we've had people eat like 5x their sales quickly. We had one of my favorite case studies is like an early one, and I have more recent ones that are pretty awesome. But one of my favorite ones is someone who was struggling. They were doing about 3 roofs a month, and within a few months, they were doing 3 or 4 roofs a week.
Wow.
And they didn't add in any other marketing. We did help them throw a Facebook ad campaign up, but like a very basic one. Like it was mostly just branding. They had a fancy video they wanted to put out there, but it's pretty wild.
What do you say to someone who says, I don't have time, I'm going to a job and then I got to pull out and leave to the next one? What do you say to someone who has that as an argument?
I would ask them why they don't have time. So why would they maybe not have time?
Well, I mean, for them, it's either they didn't leave enough time on the schedule, or they've overbooked themselves, or it's just a rat race to just get as many in as possible.
I would say, are you always this busy, or are you just this busy like this week?
Yeah,
and then
that makes sense.
If they said, I'm always this busy, I'll say, do you have a team? They probably will say no. I'd say, why don't you have a team? They'd say, because I don't know how to delegate, or I don't like I don't have time to train someone. I don't have then I would say maybe it's because you don't have solid processes to teach them. So this is the solid process, and it actually will keep them from being lead babies. It'll allow them to generate their own pipeline that grows and that compounds just like the way I'm talking about it. I also usually would say, like, from a route optimization perspective, this is incredibly valuable. So if you have trouble because you have one call here and one call here and one call here and one call here, this is a solution to that. And you don't have to schedule the appointment right away. You don't have to do the job right away. You can just make the contact, connect with them, and then schedule them for another day, which is usually what I'd suggest, because if you always are rushed, then people are going to sense that, and no one needs that kind of anxiety.
No, that's I like how you brought lead babies into the conversation. We need to talk more about that.
Oh yeah,
lead babies. How fast can what's the quickest you've seen this start to turn around? So let's say we've got someone who's listening to this and like, man, this could really work. I hate the sales staff of having to knock on doors. Chip's got to add something to the conversation here.
So
yeah, what do you say to someone in that situation?
So everything that I talk about, like from a conceptual perspective, can be implemented almost right away. So like we have a whole course on how to like put everything together. We have our course, we have our training, like our hands-on consulting. We build these out custom for people. And that's really like the main focus that we have. But we give a lot away for free. We have a lot of guides. And if you understand the philosophy and the why behind it, you can start doing this tomorrow. What is important is not just knowing the why, but having a very solid how. And the how needs to be set up in a repeatable way so that it's not just you. Even if you're a one-man show right now, if you have dreams of hiring someone else and then you implement this strategy, but you don't document it well, then you actually will be putting yourself in a pretty rough situation, because the whole thing and the reason that your business was growing, you'll have to now try to think through how to document it, how to perfect it so I can delegate it. So as early as possible, try to figure out like, what am I going to do every time? Because if we can control the controls as best as possible, we can control the inputs, then we can have more predictable outputs, and we can know what's working and what's not. Now, it's a whole system. So direct mail is something we encourage everyone to do, for instance. But you don't get a lot of calls from the direct mail at all. and you never will.
It supports everything else that you're doing, though.
But it supports everything else, and it's actually a conversation piece as well. Hey, you should have received a letter from us, or hey, did you get this postcard? Or be on the lookout for a postcard in a few days. I might stop by and just double check that you got it, because we're not sure if everyone's getting them.
Well, that's a good one. That's a good one. So you mentioned your thing here. I'm in your school group, Built Right Accelerator. Is that where people can kind of jump in and start to get some of the freebies there?
So that group is half shut down, half not. We're going to reopen it. We're going to reopen it and have that as more of a thing. We have a Facebook group called the Built Right Contractor. That's absolutely the best place to go.
Amazing.
Get the free resources. On our website, front and center is like one of our most popular PDFs that we send out. So bgb-enterprises.com, and the first thing you'll see is a opt-in to get a PDF.
Brilliant.
And in general, I mean, just we do trainings and stuff like this. I usually don't hold a whole lot back. So
I love it. No, and I can vouch for that. I mean, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but I actually met you through an agency training program. That's how we originally got connected. And you always lay out the secret sauce. So I'll get you to send me those links just so I make sure I have them right, and then I'll drop them when I do up the blog for this. But this is awesome, man. I know Chip's getting a little bit antsy there.
Oh yeah.
Can we? I think we've got a few minutes here. Can we dive into some things that could go wrong, or why this wouldn't work for someone?
So that's a good question. One common mistake, not a way it goes wrong, but a common mistake, is if you get really hyper focused on one individual component of the overall system. So if you misunderstand what the direct mail is meant to be within the system, for instance, you may think, I'm spending a ton of money on direct mail, but no one ever is calling me. But if you take the direct mail out, and then you don't have that conversation piece any longer, and you don't have those more automated touches that you can create, then the whole process may not work as well. So a big one is stopping too soon, or stopping one individual piece, or picking and choosing what you should and shouldn't do. If you're trying to follow like the blueprint we lay out specifically. Another thing is if you live in a very rural area. So like the neighboritis doesn't work as well when the neighbors are 500 yards away and people bought the house so they don't have to see their neighbors. Unfortunately, in incredibly wealthy neighborhoods that are like gated, where like McMansions all over, like it's a little tough to knock those doors.
Yeah.
And then a big thing that may not work is if you have these touches, but then try to sell over and over again. You have to trust that consumers are not dumb. You have to trust that people know how to make the decision when they have the right information, and you have to trust what that information that they need is to make the decision. So it's really important that you maintain the frame of customer service oriented, helpful, keeping them informed, demonstrating what it's like to work with you, and don't go in for the kill at any point until they really invite you to sell them. And the reason is because if at any point they sniff out that you're just trying to sell them, then all these genuine actions that you're doing feel a lot less genuine.
They feel like pieces of a puzzle just to topple the domino, right?
Exactly. And so it's really important, like you have to adopt this mentality of like, we are here to serve this community that we're in. We are here to keep people, whether they hire us or not, informed. We want to make sure that our company coming in is not a negative experience for people. We want to make it a positive experience for everyone who touches us, who is impacted by us in any way. And if that is your goal and that's your modus operandi, then you are going to have a lot of success with this. If you just are some closer, hardcore salesperson, and you adopt this, you're probably going to be like biting your tongue, and it's going to be tough to not just go in for the sale. But I promise you, your conversion rate on like doors knocked or on your mail or on your door hangers or on your yard signs is going to skyrocket compared to what it is. And when you do these actions consistently, the math really does shake out in a pretty amazing way.
Well, it's just something we haven't really hit on, and we glanced over, and I want to circle back to is the insane power of having someone post to their Facebook page and to the community groups. When
That's
was the
why
last
the
time you got?
average is higher than 3, but 3 is
Yeah,
like the minimum we want to go for, because you might get 2 opportunities on one project and 1 on the other. You might get a goose egg on one, but you might get 2 or 3 appointments and then a post that gets you 7 or 8 appointments.
yeah,
And that happens. I mean, I would say every 3 or 4 times that you successfully complete one of these cycles, you're going to have one that really takes off.
yeah.
And that's part of what's important is like you and I mean, do you run ads? Do you do PPC for people?
We run a bit of PPC, yeah.
Okay. So do you make your decisions based off of the day's performance, the 3 days performance, the 5 days performance, the 2 weeks performance, or the month's performance?
You got to look at them all consecutively. I mean, it's the same for SEO. If you're looking at like daily or weekly, like you're driving yourself up a wall.
What would be the craziest one to focus on?
Hourly.
Hourly, daily. So like
Yeah,
that's exact hourly. I'm glad you said hourly because that actually is even more relevant. Like you need to make sure that you're looking at the bigger picture. So you need to make sure you're measuring things in like zooming out a little bit, because this is a system that we're creating, and it might not just spit out some perfect outcome because we don't live in a perfect world every time. But if you implement the right actions and you do these things on a normal basis, I really do. I guarantee we have a guarantee for roofers where if they don't double their sales in 3 months, then we will work for free until they do.
yeah,
And I haven't figured out what that will look like for other industries quite yet, though we are starting to work with other industries. But the reason that we have that is because if you do the work and you put in that effort and you implement these processes properly, then it really is just a matter of time before things start taking off, and you'll start experiencing the benefits of the referral process immediately. You'll
yeah,
start experiencing the benefits of having a good build day presence if you have a company that has a more extended project or
yeah.
production process. Like you'll see those things immediately. Now, junk removal and some of the trades that are in and out, it does require a little bit more nuance, but I'll tell you, we're working with a plumber right now, and we're coming up with some pretty badass strategies that are going to work.
That's
Not
awesome.
and the reason they're going to work is because it's just human psychology. And if you can be a master of that, you're going to be pretty effective.
Yeah,
It's not
I
always
love it.
about algorithms.
I love it. So, 2 questions. Adam just jumped into the house. We're actually having Adam on here. I forget the exact day he booked,
Adam
but he
says
said,
I like ketchup. Adam likes gravy on his pizza, and he's just making stuff up, trying to
"I
act
love
like
watching you guys go at it." So, why do you like ketchup
also
on your
never
pizza?
eat.
That's my
I
first question.
don't like ketchup on my pizza. Adam never. This dude has never. I witnessed him as a 30-year-old eat a bean for the first time. A bean,
Like a green bean?
any bean. I
That's amazing.
witnessed him
Like no
break a
chili,
bean.
no burritos, nothing. Adam, we've got some stuff to talk about on the
Isn't that
podcast.
wild? You're in Canada and you've had beans.
Everybody's had beans. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. That's what I thought.
That's funny. There's
Not
a
Adam.
deep story here. I love it. Second and final question. I think if we don't veer off too far off track. So you've got someone who's coming in. They're like, this makes sense. This is awesome. I can run through the survey. I can run through asking the questions. But man, I can't take a selfie. Like that's just so cheesy. Like I can't take a selfie, and I don't want to. And who's going to say yes to that? What do you say to them?
I would say, what else won't you do to grow your business?
That is a great succinct answer.
at the end of the day, if you're not going to take a selfie and you're going to just think that like everyone, I mean, selfies are pretty standard in social media world.
Yeah, pretty ubiquitous. And there's nothing like having a person posting saying, I just worked with this plumbing company or this roofing company or this junk removal company. It was amazing. You never hear those stories. And so hearing that story, seeing pictures of people, having it in a Facebook group, people listening, I mean, we've all seen it as agency owners when someone tags you in a group. It's insane, the power of
crazy. That. I mean, that's how I grew my agency.
Yeah. Adam's done it the same way.
Yeah, Adam's a great example. You're a great example. I mean, if in our world, the equivalent for us business owners who do a lot of our work nationally with like people on Zoom, and we're service-based businesses, Facebook groups and our social media and our profile, like that's the equivalent of the neighborhood. How can we give? This podcast is an example of how can we give and how can we demonstrate the way we think and give people a taste of what it looks like to potentially work with us or just get to know us. And that's really the equivalent. It's the same thing, except this is just kind of the way that it works for contractors, because you have to find people, you have to find where you're relevant. And outside of the business to business world, people aren't just sitting there thinking about junk removal companies or landscape companies or plumbers or roofers. They only are thinking about them when they either need it or want it.
Yeah.
And
or
that's
hate
a
it
narrow
or have a
window.
bad experience.
Yeah. And that's a narrow window, and like you got to capitalize on it.
Yeah. Max says Texas will not take selfies of strangers. I'll repeat what Brad said. What else will you not do to grow your business? PJ
They're not
says
strangers anymore. Are they? Yeah. If they are, then you probably didn't do the best job.
That's a good point. They shouldn't be a stranger if you finished up your job and done the process. PJ says I have no ego. PJ's done a great job. We had a fun podcast last week. We're actually going on for round 2 in a couple weeks. Some stuff that he's done there. So, Brad, this has been awesome. Thank you for jumping in on a Saturday evening to chat with me about this and to chat with people about this. It's really good.
I really appreciate being on, and guys and gals, just take action, adopt the mindset, understand some of the concepts that we talked about here, and I promise you'll get a lift in your business. And if there's ever a more in-depth need to develop some of these processes, join our group, watch our training, book a time to talk, whatever you'd like. But we'd love to help you strategize and build this out for you and your business so that it's scalable and so that you can easily delegate it to your growing team.
Yeah, 100%. So it'll be, I'll get the links from Brad. They'll be in the description when this goes live on the podcast platforms and in the blog, wherever you found this. I'll probably drop them on the Facebook post as well. But Brad, appreciate you. Guys, we'll see you next time. Brad, stick around and we'll just catch up off air before we head on our Saturday evenings.
Good. Thanks, y'all. Have a good one.